Scorpio, welcome to your 5-card movie star spread. As per usual, you can click right on that description box below and it will talk about the significance of the spread as well as the placement of each card. With that being said, we'll get started. Wow. Scorpio. A lack of action on your part led to a very painful ending. Okay? That's what I see here. You didn't do something. You didn't act on time. You didn't make a decision. And what that did was that made somebody or something pull away from you. This was a missed opportunity, and you're taking it really, really hard. But let me tell you something about a missed opportunity that people take really hard. You're not actually dealing with the loss of the thing. The truth of the matter is you're dealing with what you thought you could have. You created a fantasy of something turning out perfectly, and then you didn't take an action on actually seeing what that would become, and you realized you missed an opportunity on making it anything at all. So when you recognize that this opportunity is past because your lack of action, you're taking the loss harder than you should because you wrapped a fantasy around the outcome. A fantasy of perfection. When something exists in our mind, it's so perfect, sometimes we don't want to pull it into the 3D and make it real because it could not meet our expectations. Okay? So you feel like you missed out on the most wonderful thing, but in all honesty, had you brought this thing into fruition, it may not have been as wonderful. It had the opportunity to have flaws. So you are hung up and hurt by having to let go of the fantasy of what something could be. You aren't even the least bit concerned into what it really is. And this is causing you a lot of emotional distraught. All right. And unfortunately, Scorpio, this is a bad habit of yours. You do this a lot. What you do is you fixate on something and you imagine how wonderful it could be. And then when that thing doesn't turn out the way you want it to, you take that loss so deep and so hard. But you're not actually focusing on the real thing. You're focusing on what you're doing is you're kissing the fantasy goodbye. You're saying, oh, this could have been the most wonderful thing, and I missed out on what was the most wonderful thing. But as we know, as things become real, like let's say this is a person. Okay, let's just say this is a romantic thing, and you had a crush. You had a crush on somebody, and they kind of liked you, but you waited too long to do something, and now they're gone, and now you feel like you missed out on the best person of your life. Well, really, you didn't actually get to know that person as well as you thought, because you were still in that crush phase. You were still in that honeymoon phase, and that rose-colored glasses phase where everything you saw was perfect. You didn't look at their flaws, they're this, they're that. You didn't live with this person for 5 years and start to see their idiosyncrasies and the things that would annoy you. You know, you didn't actually know this person well enough to say, oh, they're this, they're that, but you still told yourself that's what they were. So you feel like you missed out on the best person. Now let's pretend it's not a person. Let's pretend it's a job. Let's say you didn't apply for the job that you really wanted, and now you're sitting back and you're like, oh, I could have been that nurse, I could have been that doctor, I could have been that, I could have been that CEO. Or, if you're an entrepreneur, you looked at a particular client, you never took an action toward that client signed on with somebody else and did really, really well. Well, if they signed on with you, maybe they wouldn't have done that well. Maybe it was luck. Do you see where I'm going with this? You're building this up to be a bigger loss than it actually was. This is something you never had in the first place. So you can't say it was perfect. You're just pretending it was perfect. And this is a bad habit of yours. You let yourself down in this situation. You didn't take action. You built it up to something bigger than it was. And now you feel emotionally let down based on this fantasy that you build up in your head over and over and over. But luckily, you can stop all this. See, because the Wheel of Fortune is about endings and beginnings. Let this serve as a warning that this ending like this should be the last ending like this, because you have the ability to learn the lesson of there's a difference between losing something that was real and losing something that was a fantasy. Losing something saying, oh, it's going to be this, it's going to be that, when you really didn't know in the first place. You can change all that, but you have to take the action to change it. You have to understand that there's a lesson in this, okay? Because the reason you wind up in this situation over and over is because you take this heartache and you take this loss as a seed and you bury it and you walk away from it. And then you go and you make the same mistake over and over, Scorpio. This is a warning to stop. This is your chance to take a different action and not put yourself in that anymore. To get out of the disassociation of a fantasy and put your feet into reality. And recognize you didn't really lose anything. You just never had it to begin with. So you can't say what it was. Because it might have been a real person. It might have been a real job. It might have been a real client. It might have been a real contract. But the fantasy that you built up around it, that it was perfect, that wasn't real. So it's time for you, first off, to get out of your own head. Okay? You have to stop looking within yourself for these fantasies. You have to stop disassociating and taking the naive approach and saying, oh, this perfect thing is here, and I'm just going to ignore my inner understanding of what something is. And next time, take action. Next time, actually go toward this thing and see what happens in reality. I'm a little worked up right now because I'm feeling agitated by the situation. And in all honesty, I feel like I'm picking up on your energy. So this isn't like a heartbreak, like boo-hoo, me in a corner. This is frustration. This is anger. And I'm telling you right now, you want to put this anger on somebody else, but the reality is, because you didn't take action, and because you just believed that everything was going to be the way it was, the way you planned in your head, and you didn't really look inside self to see what was really there, that's how you got there in the first place. So you're turning this anger out towards somebody else, but in all actuality, who's responsible for this? You never took action. Which means this other person, this other contract, this other whatever, they really didn't do anything at all. They were just there. I hate to say it, Scorpio, but you let yourself down. And this is a lesson that you don't have to keep doing that over and over. You can put your hands on the steering wheel of life next time, go in the opposite direction, look inside yourself, and understand a new beginning. How do I put this? There's a difference between being in a fantasy world and feeling like nothing bad is ever going to happen. And there's a difference between having new hope and a new approach and feeling like, well, I know things might not go wrong, but I know I'll work through it. Next time, you need a better plan. Next time, you need to take action. I'm going to end this here because I feel like I'm repeating myself. But in all honesty, Scorpio, you let yourself down in this situation. It's not fear to put your anger and your heartbreak on somebody else, because what you lost was never really yours to begin with. I hope you found a message that serves your highest good, and I hope next time you can steer the ship in a different direction. Good luck with your healing. I'll see you next week.